This is Jimmy Pitts from PITTS Minnemann Project, and you are listening to Metal Wani.
How's my dear brother there in US?
I'm doing well. How's my brother in India?
Pretty good. The day has just started for you. So what plans for Saturday and Sunday?
Well, I was going to mix a song. That was my intention, but then the wife and daughter got sick, so I'm going to be playing Super Dad, Super Husband.
Oh, yeah. Now, while I was just, I was spending some time here in my room and I heard this tsunami of complaining bobs from the Fractured Diamonds.
Yes, sir.
What can I say? I mean, even without a guitar solo, it sounds phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
So when you're going to add the guitar solo, it's going to be on a different level.
Yes, it should be Jeremy Barnes from Australia on guitar, who's just phenomenal.
Okay.
And he's on tour right now, so I'm just waiting for him to get back Tuesday, and hopefully I'll have the solo, and I'll send you that version. But Hans Grossman on drums, Fountainhead on all the rhythm and the other lead guitars, and
awesome.
And me and Jerry.
And one and only on keys.
Yeah, just me on keys.
Wow, wonderful. So how did this particular project come into the picture? I mean, of course, you and Hannes have been together for a long time, even Fountainhead. So how about him? So how did this entire group got together?
The Fractured Dimension originally had a drummer named Alex Ariano from Power of Omens, and time just was not working out for the two of us anymore. So I called Hans up. Well, I emailed him actually, and I played on his CD, so he played on mine, and it just kind of worked out. And I still will be working with Alex too.
Okay.
But, yeah, so Hans has done, I think I have 10 songs with him on drums.
Awesome.
That I have to mix and get all the guitar and bass and everything together for, and then I'll be ready to release a full length. So I'm just going to release some singles in the meantime, the ones that are...
So the plan is for later this year?
That's sure what I hope. That project has been 4 or 5 years in the making. We were waiting on the other drummer, and now it's going a little faster, so I'm hoping later this year for that project.
Wonderful. Now that's not it. I mean, we have Christian Muenzner's solo album Beyond the Wall of Sleep as well that came out recently, and you played on almost every track.
Yeah, I believe I ended up playing on every track, even some it's just pads, but I had so many solos on his album.
Absolutely. Now he's known for his work in various of the projects like Obscura, Paradox, etc. So coming up with an album like this, which has such a unique touch, and of course you, Hannes, and all dropping bombs on the album. So how was that? How did that come into the picture?
Actually, I do a lot of work with Fountainhead,
right?
Tom Geldschlager from Germany, and he had mentioned to Christian about the Fractured Dimension, my other project, and said, hey, you should do a guest solo for these guys.
Okay.
And Christian goes, I've heard of Jimmy Pitts. He played on Spastic Inc.'s album, and I loved his solo. I just played one solo, but he remembered that solo and said, that was a great keyboard solo.
Awesome.
And so he actually wrote to me instead of about the Fractured Dimension, but he said, hey, I think I'm going to do another solo album, and I'd love to have you on keyboards.
Wonderful.
And originally I think he was going to split them up between me and other people, but it kind of ended up just me, and then at the end her added some little effects and pads and things too, but mostly he let me play a whole lot.
Absolutely. I mean, the record sounds phenomenal in terms of diversity as well. I mean, it's not just Christian playing his stuff. There are a lot of elements which he has introduced, and then you are complementing that. Hannes is complementing that. Unfortunately, I forgot the name of the bassist.
Linus.
Linus, right? Yeah. So
Obscura as well.
Good stuff.
Amazing bass player, yeah.
So how's it working with Christian? I mean, he is known to be, part of many bands, different styles, different techniques. Of course, you as well. So how did this come together? I mean, especially on working for, Beyond the Wall of Sleep.
Well, once we made the introduction, and he'd written to me on Facebook about possibly doing something, a solo album, and then it was months that went by,
Okay.
And I thought, oh, I hope this still happens, but I didn't know. And then one day out of the blue, he said, hey, I finally got to work on my solo album, and this is the first song, and it
Right.
was The Talisman. So he sent me that, and that night I tracked my first two solos and sent it to him. He's like, oh, this is great. This is what I'm looking for. I want you to play on the whole record.
Wow.
So it was kind of like that. He is the most generous musician, though, I've ever met. That's an established guy, but like absolutely no ego whatsoever. Just the nicest guy ever.
Awesome. That's wonderful. That's the first time even I heard you in Spastic Ink through my friend Mayur, who just told me, okay, check out this track, and I was blown away. And how was the experience of working with Ron? He's a musical genius, isn't he?
Oh, Ron's great. Yeah, Ron was awesome. The first time he called me, I was so nervous I couldn't even answer the phone because I was such a fan from Watchtower and the first Spastic Ink album. So it was funny because at the time my roommate was our bass player, Jerry Twyford, and both of us were like, oh my God, it's Ron calling, you know, so we had him on this huge pedestal, and he's also a very nice guy. I went and met him up in Texas a few years back, and he bought me tacos, so, you know, that's a good guy.
Wonderful.
He's amazing.
That's awesome. And it doesn't end there. We have the PMP, the PITTS Minnemann project as well. Now,
yes.
My God, I mean, what can I say? You know, I would say, besides that, you have a gazillion projects. I mean, that would be the right term. I mean, I wonder how do you cope up and with things and balance them out? You know, you have a family now. You've become a father. How do you manage? And you have a day job, isn't it?
Yes, I do have a day job. Yeah, the perils of playing progressive music. You have to have a day job a lot of times.
True.
It's, you know, I just try to make the most of all my time. You know, I come home and usually, well, now we have the new baby, so I actually haven't worked any music lately.
Okay.
But before she was born, you know, I would just come home, and while my wife teaches piano, then I would just go back in the studio all night until she was done teaching, and then we would start our relaxation time or TV time.
Awesome.
So I just try to maximize my hours, and that way. And even with the baby, if she sleeps, I run in the studio and try to work on something.
Right. That's awesome. I even heard the rough version which you sent me from the next PMP album. I mean, the first album, Set Apart, that was declared the best instrumental album of 2012 on Wani by my writer. He was completely, you know, blown away. Now, with this new album, what's the approach? Now, what sort of a puzzle are you throwing at fans this time?
This time we are we took a different approach. I got all the songs, all the drum tracks from Marco at once. I got Normalizer, and then he sent me these 4 other solos to work on. So the approach this time, instead of having one giant song and a lot of guest musicians, I talked to Jerry Twyford, my bassist, and Fountainhead, and we decided to approach it like a band.
Right.
So to narrow it down, those guys wanted to do some writing too, so it wasn't just, you know, PITTS. You know, just me doing all the basic writing for it and then getting them to add. They wanted to write. And Jerry's actually done some rearrangements of Marco's drums to extend things out. And our first song we did, though, was similar to Normalizer in that it was 26 minutes, so it's half the length, but it was quite long. And really a varied approach like the Too Late to Be Normal was. But now we have, you know, more song oriented for the other 3 songs, as you like on that Conquistador track I sent you.
Right. And like you mentioned, 26 minutes. I mean, progressive musicians telling that it's a long piece. Come on, you got to say it's an epic piece. That's how we define, isn't it?
It's half as epic as Too Late to Be Normal, but the music quality, I think, surpasses Too Late to Be Normal.
Absolutely. Now, you know, there's something interesting which I even, you know, I just did some research and I found out that you are working with Vijay and Vishal. That's from Amok Symphony.
Yes.
Like, these are some of my favorite artists from India when it comes to, you know, the high-class musical geniuses. So can you throw some light on what's going on, you know, behind?
I think I can. I've played on 2 songs so far. So the first track it kind of reminded me of that era of Over, Perdition City kind of era of Over. That really just atmospheric and just amazing song. So they sent me 2 songs that were quite different. That one, and then the next song they were trying to capture an 80s vibe.
Wow.
like kind of almost 80s. It reminds me almost of like some of the 80s Rush.
Oh, Genesis.
I don't even know how, or Genesis. I don't even know how to put it into words, but it had such a different vibe than the first song. And that one they let me do some keyboard solos. The more over type song I played some piano on.
Right.
And the next one they said, okay, you can shred a little bit on here, but kind of give it. Don't go too over the top because we want to keep this 80s vibe, but with modern sound.
Right.
Yeah. Those guys are great. Both really nice. And Vishal I'll definitely be working with in the future on some of my material as well.
Wonderful. Now, looking into your, let me say, discography with all the artists you have worked with, the versatility is completely shining. Now, you also encircle numerous genres as well. So, what if you have to give advice to those close-minded musicians who always want to experiment but are scared to do so when it comes to the wide spectrum of music? So, what do you have to say for that?
I would say keep your mind open because, in the 90s, I just played in death metal bands. I was a vocalist. I didn't even play keyboards until I didn't start until I was 21. So it's never too late to start experimenting. I was very closed-minded. It was like death metal or nothing. And somewhere along the line, I remember going to a record store, and this weird hippie guy just came up to me, and he was like, dude, you got to hear this. And he took me and he's like handed me a Mahavishnu Orchestra CD.
Wow.
I just blew it wide open. I'm like, oh my God, jazz fusion's as intense as, as metal.
Right.
And then from there, I just really got into world music and classical and jazz. And
awesome.
But all that stuff, I mean, even if you want to focus, like say a band like Obscura,
right.
If you're a death metal band or any kind of metal band, it doesn't hurt to bring in those other influences.
True.
And they'll help you with phrasing and rhythm and just to hear how other people think, open your mind up.
Wow, yeah. That's really awesome. Now, that means your musical journey started in the 90s with a death metal band. So I was under the impression that you were a born keyboardist.
No, I sure wasn't. I started very late. I started very late, and but I was obsessed with getting as good as I could, as quickly as I could. So I put a lot of time into it, and so it's not too late. I remember people telling me, you can't learn an instrument unless you start as a kid and be proficient at it. And I like to think that, I've proven that wrong, I hope.
That's bullshit.
And many other people.
There are people who have taken up instruments in their, let's say, even in their 20s, and right now in a span of a decade, they have done something which even others who have been working for decades are not able to do that.
Yeah, it's everything is possible. You just have to have the dedication and the drive.
And your practice routine. So having a family, your job, numerous projects, what about the practice routine for you? How do you manage? In that 24-hour, I kind of feel you have to extend that, that line from 24 hours to even 28 hours to accommodate some time for you.
There were many nights where I didn't get much sleep. And I honestly can say I don't get as much time to practice now. Usually if I have time, I'm actually working on an album, but I'm really wanting to get back to practicing and studying jazz and classical.
Okay.
I don't play those styles very much on record, but I love to practice them because they make my metal or my prog or fusion better. But I tried to fit in. I would wake up early and practice before work. Sometimes I'd bring a keyboard to work, and I'd come home and just practice all the time.
Awesome.
And that's just the way. And once you get to that point, it's kind of just maintaining. And then when you get new ideas, then you practice on those.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Now, we discussed a lot about the projects, but what about the movie for which you're scoring, if I'm not wrong?
Oh, yes. It's Jeff Williams, J. Allen Williams. He actually did Dark Star, which was an interactive movie, and we ended up doing the score in lieu of Rush.
Awesome.
Because Rush had said they would do it up until the last minute, and then their management wanted a lot of money that they didn't ask for at the beginning. So we ended up redoing that, and it went so well that now he's doing a movie called Everything, and I'll do the score along with Jeff, who plays bass, and in addition to making movies and video games, and then Bill Bruce, who was a student of Marty Friedman. He used to play in Shotgun Messiah and stuff. So we'll do the soundtrack for that, and hopefully start soon.
Awesome. So it's still in the initial gestation period right now?
It's doing the primary filming, so they've got a lot of the filming wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to score to the film, which will be nice. On Dark Star, it was all random thoughts out of our minds, and then we put it. Jeff put it to the video game.
Awesome.
But on everything, we're going to score to the scene.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about that too.
So we have the Fracture Dimension, we have PMP, we have Christian Muenzner, and then we have a movie. So apart from that, is there something which, let's say, which you want to leak out right now? Come on, any other project coming up?
I've got it. I've done some more guest appearances. I did some solos for Mark Claytor, who's a virtuoso guitarist. Let's see. I'm trying to remember.
That's the problem when you're part of so many projects. You can't remember the name at one point of a time.
There's another guy named Hassan Iqbal. I hope I'm saying that name right. And he's got Marco and Hans on his for drums on his album.
Ooh.
And I'm playing some keyboards, some more atmospheric stuff. And I know there's some more stuff, and people are going to be like, oh, you didn't mention my project. Oh, I was just on the Me World CD. I only played one solo.
Okay.
But you should listen to that. That's a really cool CD. Kind of more rock than metal, but really good.
Awesome. That's really cool. Now, so many, this is a different kind of music you're coming up with. How about unleashing it, live? Any plans for such? To unleash all these materials live with all these projects, or let's say at least with Christian Muenzner, because he was really, he really wanted to play all these tracks live, but don't know how and when.
Exactly. He will be playing some with backing tracks, but if the opportunity ever arises for us to meet up and play, I would love it, and I know he's expressed that he would as well.
Right.
And as far as my projects right now, it's so spread out kind of around the world that I'm not able to play live much. And I'd gone about 5 years without playing a live show. And then I sat in with a King Diamond tribute band and an Iron Maiden tribute band like a month ago. And then I sat in with my old band Super String Theory. That's a progressive band.
Awesome.
And so now I kind of want to play live, but I just don't have the people around here at this moment. So anyone's watching this from Springfield, Missouri area,
Oh my God! What can I say? I mean, it's a different ball game altogether. I mean, I really love watching prog metal bands playing, that long pieces, or at least a 6-minute long piece live. It's a different feeling altogether because it connects with you compared to a thrash metal or a death metal guy. Prog kind of connects to you, in terms of musical spectrum as well. So at least I hope to see you live. I don't know where, but some way, somehow, it has to happen one day.
I hope so. I would so love that, and I'd love to come to India someday because it's a place that I've always wanted to visit.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it'll surely be an honor, to really see you play, because there's been a conversation between us on Facebook, and when you meet in person and then see each other playing live, it's a different feeling altogether. So I just hope one day we will be able to meet up and unleash your keyboard.
I would love that. If I ever get the opportunity, I'll be there.
Wonderful. And what about your rig? What do you use? Which brands do you prefer?
For keyboards, I've always played Korg keyboards. I'm not endorsed by them. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I've just always liked their sound. I think it lends itself more to metal and progressive rock.
Okay.
And I've kind of updated my rig lately. But when I record, I always use those onboard sounds. But now there's so many good soft synths.
Awesome.
And virtual instruments that have much better quality sound.
Cool.
So I'm using a lot of East-West stuff. It's quite good, and then a lot of the just stock Pro Tools stuff is really good too. It's N2 and Structure.
That's awesome. So just like your diverse taste, you have a diverse taste in terms of your products as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of keyboards, and right now, even though I said I'm into Korg, I have a few different brands of instruments that I use.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, the quest to become faster has killed many musicians. I mean, in terms of the power of expression in songs, it kills me, when I see everybody wants to play faster. What's your opinion on that? Definitely in your case, I'm sure you won't agree with this, but in a condition right now in this music scene, everybody wants to outdo each other in terms of technicality, play, zillions of notes in a second.
Yeah.
Well, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I can tell you, I came from that kind of after I went from vocalist to keyboardist, and I was just constantly practicing, and my goal was just to be, I was very competitive and wanted to play super fast. So I kind of got that ability, and then I've kind of tried to back off from it somewhere. You use it for expression. Like if you need a burst of energy, it's good to have those chops. Mm-hmm. But if that's all you rely on, then you probably aren't saying much musically.
Right.
So I'm tried to really focus on phrasing and stuff, and use that as a tool, but not as a crutch.
Awesome.
If that makes sense. So I would tell people that, sure, by all means, practice with that metronome, get your speed up, work on your scales, your arpeggios, but make sure that you're using it to make music. And I'm not trying to say that from an arrogant point of view, like, oh, I've got it down, because I'm still working to do that myself. That's something that we all struggle for, the ego versus like the soul, like trying to do something expressive.
Right, absolutely true. Now, we were talking about the Pro Tools and other things, these gadgets, technicality that has come into music. And is it, it's getting more difficult for a new age musician to come up with something different, something fresh. So again, like modern production has its own pros and cons too. So your opinion on that?
On modern production tools?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a blessing and a curse. I think the internet's a blessing and a curse. It allows you to
Absolutely.
all of that technology. It's just how you use it. It's great to be able to connect with people all over the world and work with it that way.
Right.
And it's made it easier to get your music out to people, but also more saturated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more music to contend with, and I shouldn't say contend with, but to try to get through the filter of all that.
Right.
But I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that, if you open your minds to lots of styles of music, and then also just once in a while just play some nonsense, like just get on there, like free jazz it, just play some books. There's going to be something original that you can think of.
Absolutely.
If you think with an original mind, you just don't be afraid to embrace your weirdness.
Absolutely. Very well said. Now, let me sum up the interview with a simple question to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay? If I would have to ask you to define Beyond the Wall of Sleep in just a sentence.
Oh, boy. Melody, power, aggression. I don't really have a sentence. I have adjectives.
Okay.
But for personally, I'll say it's probably my favorite thing that I've ever played on. Not to disservice any of my friends that I played on their stuff, but because Christian really made me a part of the project, I felt like an equal. So that's not really one sentence, but I can tell you it was a highlight of my life.
Wonderful. And what about PMP new album? Writing is currently going on, so drop a bomb and tell how does it sound in a sentence. Don't mention epic. I know it's going to be.
It's going to be heavier than the first one, and it's going to still retain that funk and fusion and the whole mixture of styles that you heard on the first album.
Wonderful. So what can I say? Everything is in front of me right now. Thank you so much, brother, for sparing some time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.